All right, we're going to make this fast because it's a little dark, but it's one of those things we have to continue discussing on the show because we have to start getting our minds right in order to pressure our representatives to get their minds right. Debt and immigration. Those are the two things that can bring and will bring nations down no matter what size. No matter what size. There's no army on the planet that could attack the United States of America and take us down right now. It's not possible. We have too many guns, too many boats, too many everything. It's just not possible. Logistically, it's not possible. But American debt and illegal immigration can. And I've described it this way before. It's the best way I can think of to describe it. I want you to picture the biggest, most powerful ship you've ever seen in your life. This is the biggest, most powerful thing you've ever seen in your life. It's awesome. It can take a lot of punishment. But what it can't do is take on unending amounts of water. Eventually, with enough water, even the biggest, most powerful ship goes down. That's what debt and immigration are. Let's talk about immigration. First, we have a squabble with the courts. Texas is out there trying to secure its border because the federal government won't. Texas is getting mixed signals, if you will, from the various courts. First, they're allowed to enforce the law, then they're not allowed to enforce the law, then the Supreme Court makes a decision, then they reverse the decision. Now today, a judge decided out of the blue that they're not allowed to do it. Just understand something. We now live in a country, I can't believe this is the case. We now live in a country where states have to ask the courts for permission to secure their borders. That's how crazy things are. Haiti, a fallen country, is getting ready to flood the country with all kinds of criminals. And we're going to let them in. The last time 14,000 Haitians showed up on the border, we let them all in. It's crazy. And yes, I am glad we do have people out there like Florida Governor Ron DeSantis who says he's sending them to Martha's Vineyard.
The problem when you get to a situation like Florida is if they have people in our state and we wanted to fly them, say, back to Haiti, you have to get clearance to be able to do that. If you wanted to fly somebody to a South American country, wherever they're from, it becomes a little bit more difficult because the federal government's going to tell the host countries not to accept our planes. So we've gone through these iterations. What could we do as states? I definitely think we can help put them back over the border if they come across in Texas or Arizona. And so I'd be willing to help do that. I think that the states really have no other choice to do that at that point. It's a little bit different for a maritime state like us. That's why we really have to get them before they reach the shores. And that's why we're working so hard to do that.
Yeah.
Although I will say this, we do have our transport program also that's going to be operational. So Haitians land in the Florida Keys, their next stop very well may be Martha's Vineyard.
I love it. Have you ever known a friend that's gone through a divorce, or maybe you yourself have gone through a divorce? They're generally really nasty, aren't they? Involves a lot of crying, yelling, anger, misery. Why, though? Why? Well, nobody can hurt you like the ones you love. Nobody can hurt you like the ones you love. Nobody. That's why divorce proceedings are so damaging, because you used to be together. Therefore, they know so much about you. They know who you are. They know what you are. They know your little things. Tony Bobulinski used to work hand in hand with the Biden family. He knows all the ins. He knows all the outs. Tony Bobulinski felt abandoned by the Biden family. And so Tony Bobulinski is spilling all the tea. And it was a spicy day. Practically right off the bat, it comes out just both barrels on Hunter Biden.
Now recognize Mr. Bobulinski for his opening statement.
Should I allow Hunter to give his opening statement first?
Doesn't appear Mr. Biden showed up for his public hearing, so we'll recognize you, Mr. Bobulinski.
Okay.
He didn't. Normally when people sit in front of Congress, doesn't matter who they are, they try to do hey, I'm just going to do the by the book thing, and they kind of speak in all this lawyer talk and just kind of try to get through the thing and get out of it. No. It was obvious right off the bat that Tony Bobulinski was there And he wanted to walk away with some scalps today. And I do want to point out before we go further that that's James Comer, head of the Oversight Committee. And I'm glad they had this testimony today. It is beneficial for the American people to find out just how much of a criminal their president is. I'm glad all that stuff happens, so on and so forth. But it also should be noted that one of the reasons Joe Biden will not be impeached in the House is because we don't have enough members, and we don't have enough members because James Comer is one of the Republicans who voted to bounce George Santos out of Congress. So do keep that little bit, at least in the back of your mind, as we go through all the rest of this today. Now, let's go to some of the meaty stuff. Hunter Biden. Hunter Biden committed perjury, according to Tony Bobulinski.
Biden gave his transcribed interview on February 28th and lied throughout his testimony. Here's just one egregious example of Hunter's perjury. He lied to the committee on important details concerning his money demands and threats to CFC in text messages on July 30th and 31st, 2017. He leveraged his father's presence next to him in that infamous text to strong-arm CFC to paying Hunter immediately. Jim Biden also lied extensively throughout his transcribed interview on February 21st and perjured himself. An example of that, on page 100 of his transcript, Jim is asked specifically, do you recall having a meeting with Hunter Biden, Tony Bobulinski, and Joe Biden? Jim's response, absolutely not. After the committee showed him text messages confirming that I met with Joe Biden, Hunter Biden, and Jim Biden at the Beverly Hilton in May 2017, Jim Biden, with a former U.S. attorney lawyer sitting next to him, still denied that meeting took place. Hunter confirmed his uncle perjured himself in front of this committee.
Bidens are liars. Bidens are criminals. The entire family was in on it and has been in on it for a long time. And let's talk about this family thing for a moment. Remember, we've talked about this so many times on the show that you know it by now. Joe Biden was essentially groomed from an early age to go into politics. And immediately upon entering politics, Joe Biden began to enrich himself using his family. It's his brother's business. It's his son's business. It's this, it's that. That's how criminals always operate. That's how the American mafia operates. The mafia Don doesn't buy the local Italian pizza joint. His second cousin's brother buys the local Italian pizza joint. And that leads me to another thing, just a quick item, and then we're going to move on to more Tony Bobulinski testimony here. Republicans. I saw another Republican organization say something today about Joe being involved in Hunter's foreign business deals. Involved in Hunter's business. Republicans, please for once, get the messaging right. I'm begging you, for the first time ever, please get the messaging right. Hunter Biden doesn't have a business. Hunter doesn't have anything to sell. He's a 50-some-year-old drug and hooker addict. Hunter Biden has no value, no power, nothing to sell anybody. Hunter Biden doesn't have a business. Joe Biden has a business. It is Joe Biden's business. It wasn't Sammy the Bull Gravano's crime family. Nobody in their right mind would have referenced Sammy the Bull Gravano and his crime family. It was John Gotti's crime family, and Sammy the Bull Gravano worked for John Gotti. You know how we know that? We know that because Sammy the Bull Gravano had to pay John Gotti, not the other way around. Why do you think they were always talking about 10% for the big guy?
Mr. Bobulinski, who's the big guy? Joe Biden. Are you sure about that? Because when
Joe Biden.
You're sure?
I'm 1,000% sure.
Because when Hunter Biden did his deposition under oath, he said, I don't know who it is, even though he was copied on an email that said H will hold 10% for the big guy. You sure it's the big guy is Joe Biden?
1,000%. And there's other text messages that back that up, that the brave whistleblowers, Shapley and Ziegler, have produced. Not from my phones, not from my BlackBerry that I took screenshots from. They took them from subpoenas directly from Apple's iCloud that back up the fact that Hunter knew the big guy was Joe Biden.
John Gotti didn't have to give 10% to Sammy the Bull Gravano. Sammy the Bull Gravano had to give 10% to John Gotti. Hunter Biden doesn't have a business. It's not Hunter Biden's business. It's not Jim Biden's business. They're employees. They're bagmen. Joe Biden has a business. Why? Joe Biden's the one with something to sell. And what does he have to sell? Let's make sure we focus on that for a moment before we get on to Tony Bobulinski destroying two of the biggest pieces of trash in Congress. Before we move on to that, let's just make sure we're clear about something. What is Joe Biden selling? No one likes to focus on that. What was Joe Biden selling? Or if they do focus on it, they'll use words like influence. He was selling influence. No. Influence is just a word. Joe Biden was selling your money. You understand that? You went to work today, or someone in your household went to work today, and the government swindled 35% of their money, took it out of your paycheck. 35% of your day was spent working for the federal government. And Joe Biden has spent his life as a senator, vice president, and I'm sure now president, figuring out how to take the money you earned today and hand it to other people so they will, in return, give him a cut back. He's not selling influence. He's selling taxpayer dollars. He's selling your dollars. That's what Joe Biden is selling. Hey, hire Hunter Biden here as vice president. I'll find a way. I'll get with Congress and we'll find a way to slip a little of that American cash your way. I win, you win, everybody wins. Just give me my 10%. Joe Biden has spent his career taking from you and giving it to foreigners to enrich himself. That's what Joe Biden has been selling. Don't ever forget that. Now sit back and enjoy watching Tony Bobulinski take a battle axe to Jamie Raskin and Dan Goldman.
We keep hearing from certain corners that our democracy is at risk and democracy is on the ballot in 24. Yet the same people preaching this mantra know better. They continue to lie directly to the American people without hesitation and remorse. Rep. Dan Goldman and Jamie Raskin, both lawyers, and Mr. Goldman, a former prosecutor with the SDNY from New York, will continue to lie today in this hearing and then go straight to the media to tell more lies. Hunter Biden's defense attorney, Abby Lowell, weaponizes letters to Congress to try to smear my name.
Mr. Chairman, save his time, but he called members of this committee liars, and I just want to know whether the order and decorum requirements of House Rule 11 apply to witnesses appearing before the committee. Does it apply or does it not?
There's decorum from the members. We've asked for that. There's no language that I'm aware of pertaining to a witness.
Thank you.
So don't make sure we didn't waste any of his time on the opening statement. Mr. Bobulinski, I'm sorry for the disruption. Please continue your opening statement.
Ouch. Like I said, this thing is personal today. And I applaud Tony Bobulinski for the courage that took. And let me just tell you, as you know, we live in an evil, corrupt country now. We do. Tony Bobulinski, might want to say a prayer for that man. He's going to get a visit from the IRS or the FBI or maybe both on the exact same day. All right, and that wasn't the only entertaining thing that happened today. There was another exchange with AOC and Tony. But before we play that, I just want to remind everybody, because this is one of those little bits of information that's out there, and it's a fact, it's true, but it kind of gets lost in the ether with all the other crap we talk about on this show. AOC is an actress by trade. She's an actress and a dancer. You know that's what she is, right? So why is she in Congress? The Justice Democrats, it's a hardcore communist group of Democrats. They wanted to bounce a more moderate Democrat, and so they had actual auditions for people to come in who they could prop up to run against the moderate Democrat. AOC, the actress, showed up for an audition. They liked her look. Obviously, she's very pretty. And they thought, yeah, we could mold this person into a communist piece of trash in Congress. She won the audition, won the congressional race. Now she's in Congress. Why is AOC always making herself look dumb? It's not necessarily that she's dumb. She may be very, very dumb. She just doesn't know anything about politics at all. She's an actress. That's why you saw this today.
Is it your testimony today that you personally witnessed President Joe Biden commit a crime?
I believe the fact that he was sitting with me while I was putting together a business
Did you
deal,
witness the
but-
president commit a crime? Is it your testimony today?
Yes.
And what crime have you witnessed?
How much time do I have to go through it?
It is simple. You name the crime. Did you watch him steal something?
Corruption statutes, RICO and conspiracy.
What is it?
FARA.
What is the crime, sir?
You
Specifically.
You asked me to answer the question. I answered the question.
No.
RICO, you're obviously not familiar with. Corruption
Excuse me,
statutes,
sir. Excuse me,
FARA.
sir. Excuse me, sir. RICO is not a crime. It is a category. What is
It's
the
a category of crimes that you're then charged
You
under
have charges.
a long 100
You
list
have
of
charges. Sir,
You want
please
me to name the exact statute
Sir,
under RICO?
yes.
Well, it's funny. In this committee room, everyone's not here. There's over 18
All right, sir. I reclaim my time.
lawyers that
I
went to
reclaim
law
my
school.
time. I
I'll leave
reclaim
it
my
up
time.
to you guys
Okay,
to
thank
define
you,
the
sir. I
statute
reclaim my
under-
time.
Anyway, all that may have made you uncomfortable, but that's our government, and I'm right.
We met Adele Andaloro outside the home her parents left her in Flushing, Queens. She's in the process of selling it.
No, he locked it.
But she's been locked out. She claims squatters moved in on February 6 and refused to leave. In New York, squatters have rights after 30 days.
By the time that someone does their investigation and they do their work and their job, we'll be well over the 30 days, and this man will have stolen my home.
Adele and her daughter, with the property deed in hand, went inside.
This is my furniture. These are my curtains.
She didn't just find her belongings inside.
There's a man sleeping right there. Get out of my house.
She found two men.
How long have you lived here?
I moved in about 2 days ago.
They've called the police on me, and I've called the locksmiths. I didn't come in illegally. The door was open. I may end up in handcuffs today if this man shows up here and says that I have illegally evicted him. I said to them, let him take me to court the way I've been told to take him to court. But today, I'm not leaving my house.
The man called the police on her.
So Adele, you're getting arrested right now?
I'm being arrested.
For what?
For being in my own home.
And where's your lease?
She's fighting the house. It's not her house anymore.
My deed
That's
is
what was
current
told
and
to her.
legal.
Arrested for unlawful eviction.
And you know what hits me? I had a Marine buddy of mine text me that story 2 or 3 days ago when that story first came out. He texted me and he said, Jesse, what in the heck did we do anything for this country for? Isn't that heartbreaking? Look, I'll tell you, I don't want to shift gears on you here, but this is the kind of thing. Watching a president open up the border on purpose, watching people be kicked out of their own homes, this is the kind of thing that is eating the patriots of this country up on the inside, especially our most patriotic people, our veterans. It's killing them. They can't take it anymore. Did you see the recent survey? Only 1/3 of military families would recommend service. 1/3. I've never seen that number anywhere below 50, ever. It's now 1/3 of military families are encouraging their children, nieces, nephews, cousins to join. And I want to make sure you understand something. We do this thing on my radio show called Medal of Honor Monday, where we read a Medal of Honor citation. But you read enough of these things and you start to notice patterns over and over and over again. You start to read the backstory on so many of these guys. America's greatest heroes, so many of them, come from military families. You look at this guy who's just a lion on the battlefield, killing as many guys as he can, saving lives, just doing amazing movie things, and you find out, yeah, his dad was in the Army. Yeah, his grandpa served. Yeah, he just felt a duty for his country. Traditional military families are a requirement, and they're done. They're gone. And it's not just that they're done. They're so disenfranchised, they're telling their kids, no. Look, I told my kids no. Obviously, they can do what they want when they turn 18, but we've talked about it. Look, do you know that we've had more embassies evacuated under Joe Biden than any other president? More embassies evacuated under Joe Biden than any other president. So the American patriot, the American veteran has to sit back and watch this country be humiliated time and time and time again. And then when it comes time for his children to make a decision, he's out. He doesn't want that for his boys. And then he has to see stuff like this. Afghanistan, I want you to understand something, whether the veteran was in Afghanistan or not. What happened in Afghanistan for our veterans is something that is tearing them up inside. To watch not only all that work, all that effort for 20 years be tossed away like it was nothing, but to watch 13 of our warriors be killed because of the insanity, and then to watch pieces of trash like Mark Milley sit in front of Congress and say things like this.
Number of Americans. This was always an issue. The number of Americans, as General McKenzie said, an F-77 report is supposed to, every ambassador in every country of the world keeps an F-77 report, and they're supposed to track the Americans, where they're at, the phone numbers, address, et cetera, in the country. That was always a difficult number for us in the Department of Defense to get a hold of, and I think it's true at the tactical level and operational level as well. And I'll be candid, I don't know the exact number of Americans that were left behind because the starting number was never clear.
We just left our own people there. We're leaving them everywhere, leaving them in Haiti, leaving them everywhere. And do I need to remind you, another reason these military families are telling their children no. China is gearing up for an invasion of Taiwan. That is a big boy power invading Taiwan. And the President of the United States of America, he's already signed your son up for war.
But would U.S. forces defend the island?
Yes, if in fact there was an unprecedented attack.
After our interview, a White House official told us U.S. policy has not changed. Officially, the U.S. will not say whether American forces would defend Taiwan. But the commander-in-chief had a view of his own.
So unlike Ukraine, to be clear, sir, U.S. forces, U.S. men and women, would defend Taiwan in the event of a Chinese invasion?
Yes.
My son isn't dying for Joe Biden. All right, we're not going to spend a lot of time on this. I'm just going to once again bring up the fact that we are already divorcing as a nation. And I don't celebrate that. Contrary to what people think, I don't celebrate that. I don't think this is great. I don't think it's a good place to be as a country. To watch people separate like this is hard. It's ugly. And to be part of that, right? You're part of that. I'm part of that. We are part of the America. The story of your life, part of the story of your life will be you lived in America as it was starting to kind of fracture on us. But look, as much as I dislike it, let's be honest. It's something that should happen. Sometimes it's better if we go our separate ways. Did you see this video? Charlene Oliver is her name. She's a state senator in Tennessee. Who she is doesn't really matter, but you and me, we can't live with people like this.
It is a slap in the face, and you might as well stomp on the grave of Tyree Nichols for bringing this bill. Don't tell me this stuff ain't racist. Don't tell me it's not. It is rooted in racism. This was a Jim Crow bill that Taylor Brock and all his Confederates voted for today. So yeah, we're gonna fight. Dr. King said the riots are the language of the unheard. You ain't saying nothing yet. If you keep silencing us like this, what do you think our district's gonna do? We have had it up here. Gloves off. Like, we're gonna fight like hell. You don't expect us to respond?
We can't live together. And Dr. King said, this is racist. My army is going to start burning crap down. But we can't live like this. And we shouldn't. You really see things coming apart for Joe Biden, don't you? It's really, really going badly for Joe Biden. And we'll get to why that's making me a little nervous here in a few, but let's just focus on this. There's a news story out, NBC News. NBC News, one of the top propaganda arms of the American communists. They're out there talking about Joe Biden behind the scenes, quote, seething about his reelection chances. He's angry. He's anxious. Joe Biden is in deep trouble, and that should put a smile on your face for 2024. Joe Biden is in deep trouble. And here's the thing about the kind of trouble Joe Biden's in. there's a good chance, politically, we're not going to talk about the election just yet. I'll get to that in a minute and some things that make me nervous. But politically, there's probably nothing Joe Biden can do to pull himself out of the trouble he's in. You know, it's one thing to fall into a raging river. Let's say some whitewater rapids. Only you've got a life jacket on and you're an excellent swimmer. So yes, you're in trouble and yes, you might drown, but you can see how that guy might be able to pull himself out of that some way, get to the shore. You could see that. But if you have no life jacket and you never learned how to swim and you go into the whitewater rapids, well, you're probably in very deep trouble. You see, Joe Biden doesn't have anything that can reverse the course he's on. He can't reverse his policies. Joe Biden doesn't make these policies. He's surrounded by committed communists who hate America, trying to burn everything down. So in an election year where he should secure the border, he very clearly should. Just electorally, he clearly should. He won't. He can't. He's not allowed. In an election year where he's supposed to dial back on some spending, hopefully get this inflation under control. He's controlled by communists trying to burn America down, trying to destroy the currency. So he can't. He won't. So he can't do that to save himself. And Joe Biden is in a uniquely horrible, but unique situation where his physical and mental capacity has deteriorated to the point that he can't rely on likability or charm, or look, a lot of these politicians get very, very far on that stuff. And no, I don't like Joe Biden, but a lot of politicians get very far, no matter how much people hate their policies, on the hey, the smile, the joke, hey, seems like a good guy. Joe Biden, he just can't do it anymore.
I was very happy to see Northern Ireland's Executive Assembly reinstated last month. Now Northern Ireland is a fully functioning government again. And I didn't admit your colleague.
Look, I'm not even trying to be mean. He can't get up there and wow the ladies, charm the dudes anymore. He can't. He's not physically able. He's not mentally able. Look, let's talk about an inside baseball part of politics as we lay out kind of where we're at in 2024 and how bad of trouble he's in. We just had the State of the Union address. Now, let me explain how this normally works. I know you probably know a lot of this stuff, but let me explain how this normally works. When you're the president, doesn't matter who you are, Republican or Democrat, and you give a State of the Union address, you pretty much always, really, without exception, I think, for the most part of my lifetime, you get a bump in the polls. It's just one of those things everyone understands. Everyone who understands politics, all the political nerds like you and me, everyone gets that you will get a bump in the polls during the State of the Union address. Now, why is that? Well, you get to make a speech to the entire country. The networks stop their programming. Okay, so the whole country has to sit there. They have to listen to you. You look, as president, you look powerful. You look important. And you will normally, during the State of the Union speech, there's always political stuff in there. You'll normally kind of give this flowery, we're all in this together, America's doing so great things. So the whole country kind of sits there and watches you give this speech, and we're all in this together. And look, it's not life-changing, but you always get a bump in the polls from a State of the Union speech. It's just one of those things everyone understands. Except for now. Joe Biden gave his State of the Union speech last week, no bump in the polls. Now, why was that? Well, we'll get to that more, and we've talked about that already, so I guess we don't have to belabor the point. Why did he not get a bump in the polls? Because Joe Biden didn't, I guess I should say, get up and give that speech, the one I just described, the unifying, we're all in this together, America's doing great. Joe Biden has internal problems within his own party, within the support arms of his own party. Joe Biden had to give an extremely partisan, nasty speech because Joe Biden is too busy trying to keep his own team together. So his speech was nasty. He got no bump in the polls. I mean, you want to talk about keeping his team together and how badly that's failing. The Washington Post might be the most evil communist publication on planet Earth. And I really genuinely mean that. If you go through Washington Post history, it is a despicable, evil rag. But they're always on Team Democrat. The Washington Post is publishing articles about how Dome needs to step aside as VP. You want to talk about not keeping the team together? Washington Post, they're always playing ball. They're always on the team. Not right now. That's how badly it's going for Joe Biden. And a lot of this is economic. People, especially independents who can vote either way, they feel inflation. Doesn't matter how many lies you tell them about the economy and how great it's doing in jobs. People look around, they shop, they know it's bad. So that's part of it. But another part of it for Joe Biden, another reason he gave that speech, but it's yet another reason he can't seem to move in the polls, is he has a domestic coalition problem, as we've talked about. Remember, Democrats are communists. Modern Democrats are. Not your older Democrats usually, but modern Democrats, they're all communists or communist adjacent. Even if they don't know they're communists, that's what they are. And so the modern Democrat Party, it's all a bunch of malcontented groups. That's, as you know, everyone who read the Anti-Communist Manifesto has known that the communism is simply the religion of the malcontent. That's what it is. Find the malcontents in any society, recruit them, use them for power to destroy things and whatnot. So the modern Democrat Party, when you look at their various coalitions, that's what their coalitions are. This group and that group, and you've got this and the teachers and the climate changers and the feminists, and you have all these people. But there has always been a problem coming for the American Democrat, and that is their groups don't make a lot of sense lots of the time. In fact, many times their groups look to be really at odds with each other. Here's one people don't talk about. The LGBTQ Air Force, that group of malcontents. The super freaks on the left. Okay, that's one group. Well, 90% of black voters in America vote Democrat as well, except that way of life is less popular in the black community than any other community. Those groups are at odds with each other. So that's going to be a problem eventually, right? And, well, Democrats have a Jewish/Muslim problem here in America as far as their domestic coalition goes. We've talked about this already. 2/3 of American Jews vote Democrat. They are huge fundraisers for the Democrat Party. The vast majority of American Muslims vote Democrat. Israel-Hamas kicks off. Democrats don't know what to do. They back Israel, they lose their Muslim support. They back Hamas, they lose their Jewish support. They're in such dire straits. They're so worried about losing Michigan because of the Muslim population in Michigan. Chuck Schumer got up and called for Benjamin Netanyahu's head.
At this critical juncture, I believe a new election is the only way to allow for a healthy and open decision-making process about the future of Israel. At a time when so many Israelis have lost their confidence in the vision and direction of their government.
I just want to once again emphasize what a gigantic deal that is. And you don't have to have any personal investment in Schumer or Democrats or Republicans or Israel or Hamas. You just have to understand world affairs and how it works. Israel is considered an ally of the United States of America. They're not some tiny little place we colonized. They're considered an ally. They are. You don't have your politicians stand up and call for the ouster of the politicians of your ally. It's just not something you would ever see done, ever. You would never see someone in the UK get up and give a speech today and say, it's time for Joe Biden to leave. Even if that's what you want, even if that's what I want, it would never, ever happen because we're allies, so you don't do that. That was a gigantic deal. And it was not like some one-off with Chuck Schumer where he had one too many bourbons and got up there and ran his mouth. Here's all the most powerful Democrats in America backing that up.
I'm not going to elaborate on the speech. He made a good speech, and I think he expressed a serious concern, shared not only by him but by many Americans.
It's curious to me to see Netanyahu talk the way he does when he tried to interfere in American elections, but that's another subject. When he came to the Congress, criticized the President of the United States, barged into our country, into our elections. But again, let's put that aside and let's just say as we go forward, what is wrong with advocating for elections in a democracy?
He didn't just say it. All the big cheese Democrats backed him up. And remember, when you understand these people are communists who don't really care about foreign policy, they don't care anything about Hamas or Israel, this is all about domestic, that tells you how truly concerned these people are about holding together their domestic coalition. Put a smile on your face. We'll get to the potential bad news here in a moment, but put a smile on your face. All I see right now is desperation. These people are desperate.